The galaxy was old. Civilizations had risen and fallen, their ruins scattered across countless stars. But there was one story that no one dared to speak aloud anymore, the story of humans. Once they were said to be everywhere. Builders, explorers, warriors. Some called them saviors, others called them monsters. But now their name was gone, deleted from every galactic record, forbidden from every archive. Only whispers remained. A few still believed the legends. They spoke of a race that burned too bright, that challenged the powers of the galaxy itself, and vanished without a trace. Captain Elra of the Varn Dominion never believed in myths. She was a historian, trained to deal in facts, not stories. But when she discovered a strange data crystal hidden deep inside an abandoned archive on the moon of Tella, everything changed. The crystal was old, older than the Dominion itself. Its surface was marked with a single word, terror. Elra had never seen that word before. She tried to access it, but her computer refused. The file was locked behind an ancient encryption code no one had used for thousands of years. Curiosity got the better of her. She bypassed security and forced the crystal to open. Static filled the room, and then a voice spoke. "This is Commander Marcus Vale of the Earth Defense Fleet. If you are hearing this, then humanity has fallen. But know this, we will rise again," Elra froze. The voice was human. The accent, the tone, the language, all matched the forbidden word she had heard only in myths. Human. Before she could react, her ship's lights flickered. The systems shut down one by one. Engines, navigation, communication, all offline. Only the glowing blue light of the crystal remained. A message flashed across her console. Signal detected. Origin unknown. Then the sensors screamed. Multiple contacts, fast-moving, closing in. Elra rushed to the viewing deck. Outside, the blackness of space shimmered, and from it emerged shapes unlike any ship she had ever seen. Sleek, dark, triangular vessels, silent and massive. They moved with purpose, no lights, no identifiers. Her first officer ran to her side. "Captain, they're hailing us, but not on any Dominion frequency." The message came through a deep, commanding voice. "Varn vessel, power down your weapons. We are not your enemy." The image appeared on the main screen. A man wearing armor made of a strange silver-black metal. His face was calm, but his eyes carried the weight of ages. Behind him, the same emblem appeared again, a blue circle with white continents inside it, the same symbol that was on the crystal. "Identify yourself," Elra demanded. "I am Commander Vale," he replied. "Of the United Nations Starfleet." "Of Earth," Elra's heart stopped. The word hit her like a storm. Earth, the homeworld of humanity, the one said to have been destroyed 3,000 years ago. "But that's impossible," she whispered. "Humans are gone. They were erased." Vale's expression hardened. "Erased," he said quietly, "but not destroyed. The galaxy wanted us forgotten, so we watched, we waited. And now we have returned." The room fell silent. The other ships moved into position, surrounding her vessel, but not attacking. Their hulls shimmered like living metal, absorbing starlight. They didn't look like warships. They looked like something far more advanced. Elra could feel the tension rise among her crew. Fear and curiosity mixed together. "Why are you here?" she asked. Vale stepped closer to the screen. "To finish what was started. To reveal the truth they buried." Before Elra could ask what he meant, alarms blared again. A new fleet appeared on her radar, Dominion patrol ships, responding to her distress signal. They were coming fast, weapons charged. Her second officer shouted, "They'll attack both of us!" Vale looked calm. "Then they'll see what humanity has become." Outside, the first Dominion cruisers opened fire, beams of plasma streaking through the void. The human ships didn't move. They didn't even raise shields, and yet every blast stopped, frozen in space, as if time itself refused to move. Elra stared in disbelief. "How?" Vale simply said, "We learned from our mistakes." Then, with a single gesture, the space between the fleets folded, and the Dominion ships vanished. No explosion, no debris, only silence. When the light returned, Vale looked straight into the camera. Captain Elra of the Varn Dominion, you've seen enough to know the truth. They erased us from history because they feared what we could become. But the age of silence is over. The transmission ended. Elra stood motionless. Her crew looked to her for orders, but she had none. In her hands, the data crystal pulsed again, brighter now. Almost alive, the voice of humanity had returned, and across the stars, the forgotten legends had begun to awaken. Captain Elra's ship floated in silence. The stars outside shimmered like distant ghosts, and the strange human ships surrounded her like dark giants. Her crew whispered in fear. No one spoke the word human, but everyone thought it. It was the word that could end careers, even lives. Elra stood still on the bridge, staring at the black triangle of metal in front of her. The warship called the Eternity. It moved without sound, without heat, as if the vacuum of space obeyed its will. A voice came through the comms again. Captain Elra, we request your presence aboard the Eternity. You are safe. We only want to talk. Her first officer shook his head. It's a trap, Captain. They erased humans for a reason. If they're real, they're dangerous. But Elra's curiosity burned brighter than her fear. Prepare the shuttle, she ordered. Moments later, her small craft approached the massive human ship. Its surface looked alive, shifting gently like liquid metal. As the shuttle entered its docking bay, she saw rows of armored soldiers standing in silence. Each wore the same silver-black suit as Commander Vale, their visors glowing faint blue. They looked human, but more than human, stronger, smarter, sharper. The air inside was different, clean, heavy with the hum of power. She could feel it vibrating in her bones. Commander Vale met her at the dock. His eyes were calm, but his presence felt like gravity itself. Welcome aboard the Eternity, he said. The flagship of the United Nations Starfleet. Elra stepped forward. The United Nations. That name is ancient. It hasn't existed for 3,000 years, Vale nodded slowly. Not publicly, but humanity never died. We went into hiding, deep beyond mapped space, into the veiled systems. We rebuilt. We evolved. And we waited. Waited for what? For justice. They walked through long corridors filled with symbols she didn't recognize. Old Earth flags. Names of cities long lost. New York, Tokyo, Nairobi, Paris. It was like walking through a museum of ghosts. As they entered a large observation deck, Elra saw something that made her breath catch. Thousands of ships floated in formation. Massive carriers, cruisers, and sleek fighters, all painted in dark silver. It was a fleet unlike anything in the known galaxy. We watched every empire that rose after us, Vale said quietly. The Varn Dominion, the Drav Coalition, the Council of Worlds. We saw how they rewrote the past, how they erased our name to hide their crimes. Elra frowned. Crimes? Vale turned toward her. They used our technology in their wars. They betrayed our peace treaty. When humanity resisted, they united to destroy us. But they failed. He tapped a console, and a holographic image appeared. Burning cities, shattered ships, the fall of Earth itself. Billions lost. A final transmission. We will return. Elra couldn't speak. The truth hit her like a storm. Her people, her history, everything she'd been taught, all of it was built on lies. Why show me this? She whispered. Because you still believe in truth, Vale replied. And because your people are the first who will stand against us again. We don't want war. But if the galaxy chooses it, we are ready. The floor shook suddenly. Red alarms flashed through the ship. Commander, a voice shouted. Multiple warp signatures, Dominion ships inbound. Vale's face hardened. Your fleet came for you. Elra's eyes widened. They'll see your ships and open fire. They'll think you're invaders. They already do, Vale said calmly. Prepare to witness the difference between fear and power through the vast observation window. The Dominion fleet appeared. Hundreds of ships in tight formation, weapons glowing. The lead cruiser sent a message. Unidentified vessels, you are violating Dominion space. Surrender immediately or be destroyed. Vale didn't respond. Instead, the Eternity's hull glowed with faint blue light. The entire human fleet moved silently, aligning in perfect formation. The Dominion opened fire, beams of plasma slicing through space. But none hit. Every shot dissolved before reaching the human ships like smoke in the wind. Ylra stared in disbelief. Impossible. No, Vale said softly. Evolved. Then the human fleet vanished, not jumped, not cloaked, simply gone. Elra's ship sensors went wild. They disappeared from all scanners. Moments later, the human ships reappeared, behind the Dominion fleet. Silent, precise, unstoppable, Vale gave a simple order: disable their weapons. No casualties. Light flared across the stars. In less than 10 seconds, the Dominion fleet hung powerless in space. Every weapon, every engine, dead. No ships destroyed. No lives lost. Just silence. Elra turned to Vale. You could have destroyed them. We don't destroy, he replied. We remember. But make no mistake, Captain, we have returned. And the galaxy will remember us too. He looked at the planet below, its surface glowing with city lights. They erased humanity from history, Vale said. But history cannot forget its creators. Elra felt a chill run through her. For the first time, she wasn't sure if the galaxy was ready for the truth. As the eternity turned toward the next star, a single message spread through the void, a signal that every world would soon hear. We are humanity. We are back. The stars burned brighter than ever as the human fleet moved across the silent void. Every ship in perfect order, every light pulsing like a heartbeat. For Captain Elra, it was still hard to believe humanity was real, alive, and far more powerful than the old stories ever said. She stood on the bridge of the eternity, watching Commander Vale give calm, precise orders. Around him, human officers worked with quiet confidence. There was no shouting, no panic, only focus and purpose. Status of the Dominion fleet. Vale asked. Disabled, sir, a young officer replied. No casualties reported. Vale nodded. Good. Humanity does not begin this age with blood. Elra admired his control. Most leaders she knew would have celebrated a victory like that, but Vale didn't seem proud. He seemed sad. She stepped closer. You saved them. But what happens now? The Dominion will see this as a threat. The entire council will react. Vale's eyes darkened. They already have. And the truth terrifies them. He turned to a large screen at the center of the bridge. It displayed dozens of intercepted transmissions, council broadcasts, military orders, propaganda reports. Words repeated across all of them. Humans return. Containment required. Containment. Elra whispered. They mean war. Vale sighed. They always did. When we first reached the stars, we offered peace. They offered fear. A faint vibration passed through the deck, the hum of distant energy weapons. The crew grew tense. Enemy fleets detected, said an officer. Multiple signatures, approaching from 3 sectors. Vale stared at the display. The ships were coming fast, thousands of them. The combined strength of several empires, all united by fear of humanity. Open a channel, he said. Elra watched as his voice carried through every frequency across the galaxy. This is Commander Marcus Vale of the United Nations Starfleet. We are humanity. We do not come to conquer. We come to remember. The reply was immediate. Your kind was erased for a reason. Leave or be destroyed, Vale smiled faintly. We've heard that before. The fleets opened fire. Dozens of plasma beams, nuclear torpedoes, and kinetic missiles lit up the dark. The human ships did not move. Instead, the Eternity released a low, vibrating pulse, invisible, silent, unstoppable. Every projectile stopped mid-space. Then, one by one, they turned to harmless dust. The enemy commanders watched in disbelief. Elra whispered, "This power. It's impossible," Vale answered softly. "No, it's the result of pain, of learning, of time." He gave no order to attack, only to defend. Human ships formed a shining barrier, absorbing the endless fire without striking back. "Why don't you fight?" Elra asked. Vale looked at her. "Because they need to see who we are, not monsters, not myths. Just truth." But the truth frightened the galaxy even more. Soon, more fleets joined the battle. Systems fell into panic. News channels spread fear. Old hatred awakened. The Council declared emergency law. They called humanity a threat to galactic peace. Vale watched the chaos from the command deck. "They erase us again," he said. "Only this time we're here to see it." Then something unexpected happened. A message came through, not from a soldier, not from a government, but from ordinary people across the stars. They had seen the recordings. They saw humanity fight without killing, defend without hate. They saw strength used with mercy, and they began to ask questions. Who were the real monsters, the humans or the ones who lied about them? Aelra felt the shift in the air. The galaxy was starting to remember, but hope was fragile. A warning alarm sounded. A cloaked ship appeared on the scanner, small, fast, and heading straight for the eternity. "Unknown vessel detected," shouted an officer. "No identification." Vale reacted instantly. "Shields up." The ship exploded before they could intercept it. A brilliant flash filled the viewport, shaking the entire deck. When the light faded, a message appeared on the screens. A single sentence burned in red letters. "You should have stayed forgotten." Silence fell over the bridge. Vale stood motionless, his eyes fixed on the words. "The Council has chosen its path," he said. Aelra felt the chill of fear return. "What will you do?" "We reveal the truth," Vale answered. "All of it." He turned toward her. "Captain Aelra, I want you to see what they hid. The reason we were erased." He led her to a sealed chamber deep within the ship. Inside, holograms filled the air. Ancient documents, secret orders, witness logs from thousands of years ago. They showed how the Council had used human technology to build their empire, and then blamed humanity for the destruction it caused. They framed Earth. They destroyed its colonies. And they called it justice. Aelra stared in horror. "My people, we were part of this cover-up," Vale nodded. "And now the galaxy must know. Help us broadcast this to every system." Aelra hesitated. She was a Dominion officer. Helping him would be treason. But after what she had seen, she knew there was no going back. "I'll help you," she said softly. Vale smiled, but his eyes were tired. "Then the real war begins, not for control, but for truth." Outside, the human fleet moved through the stars like silent guardians. The galaxy trembled, and every world waited to see what humanity would do next. But deep within the shadows, hidden eyes watched. The Council was preparing something far worse than war, and soon the truth would come with a price. The human fleet drifted in silence above the cold blue star of Velnor. Below, the light shimmered across the Eternity's hull, painting the metal in gold and shadow. Captain Aelra stood beside Commander Vale in the command center. Around them, officers worked quietly, their faces lit by soft blue displays. The air felt heavy, not with fear, but with purpose. Aelra looked at Vale. If the Council hid the truth for so long, why expose it now? Why risk another war? Vale's eyes didn't leave the stars. Because truth buried too long becomes poison, and it's already killing the galaxy. He turned to a console and activated a holographic map. Dozens of red zones appeared, systems falling into chaos after the Council's propaganda. Protests, riots, even civil wars. Their people don't trust them anymore, Aelra said quietly. Vale nodded. They shouldn't. The Council built their peace on lies. We have proof, and we're going to show it to everyone. He handed her a small silver chip. It glowed faintly in her palm. This holds everything. The real history. The betrayals. The orders to erase us. Once this message is sent, every world will know. Aelra stared at it, her fingers trembling. You're asking me to destroy everything I once believed in? No, Vale said softly. I'm asking you to save what's left of it. Before she could answer, alarms blared. The Eternity shook violently. Breach on Deck 7, shouted an officer. Multiple intruders, automated drones. Security footage appeared on the main screen. Black, insect-like machines crawling through corridors, cutting down anyone in their way. Vale's jaw tightened. Council assassins. They're already here. He drew his sidearm. Aelra, stay here. But she stepped forward. I'm coming with you. Together they ran through the glowing halls of the Eternity. Explosions echoed through the metal walls. Sparks fell like rain. Smoke filled the air. Human soldiers fought fiercely, their armor reflecting gunfire. The drones moved fast, slicing through doors and walls. Why would the Council risk this? Elra shouted over the noise. They're desperate, Vale said. If the truth spreads, their rule ends. They'd rather burn the galaxy than be exposed. They reached the main reactor, a massive core of blue light. The drones were already there, trying to overload it. Vale aimed and fired. Bolts of white energy tore through the air, shattering machines one by one. Elra grabbed a rifle from a fallen soldier and joined him. For a moment the battle froze. Then the last drone exploded, filling the room with sparks and silence. Elra gasped for breath. If they can send drones here, they'll send more. Vale wiped soot from his face. Then we have to move faster. We send the message now. They rushed back to the command deck. The ship trembled again. Something massive had just entered orbit. Commander, said an officer, a new fleet just appeared. Identification, Council War Command. The screen lit up with the image of a stern, alien woman in ceremonial armor. Her eyes were cold, sharp, and full of power. Commander Vale, she said, you should have stayed forgotten. The galaxy has no place for your kind. Vale stepped closer to the screen. And yet, here we are. Her voice was calm but cruel. Surrender your fleet, destroy your data, or we will wipe you from existence again. Vale smiled faintly. You can't erase the truth twice. The connection cut. Seconds later, hundreds of Council warships surrounded them. Elra's voice shook. We can't fight all of them. Vale's eyes burned with resolve. We don't need to. We only need to speak before they silence us. He turned to his crew. Prepare for transmission. Wideband. Every world. Every system. Elra inserted the data chip. The ship's systems began to hum as the holographic message loaded. Centuries of evidence, hidden crimes, the truth about Earth's fall. But as the upload started, the ship shook again. Commander, shouted an officer. The reactor's failing. There's sabotage in the core. Elra's heart stopped. The drones, they damaged the failsafe. Vale stared at the console. If the core goes critical, the ship will explode. Can we stop it? Not from here, he said. A manual override, deep in the lower deck. Elra stepped forward. Then I'll go. Vale grabbed her arm. You won't make it back. She looked straight into his eyes. Then make sure the galaxy knows the truth. He hesitated, then nodded. Go and hurry! Elra ran through the burning halls as alarms blared around her. Flames licked the walls, debris falling from above. Every second mattered. She reached the core chamber. The light was unstable now, flickering violently. She climbed to the control console and began typing commands. Sweat ran down her face. Come on, come on. Static filled her comms, Vale's voice breaking through. Elra, the Council fleet is firing on us. We're holding them off, but the upload's slowing down. We need 30 more seconds. Almost there, she shouted. The reactor's energy stabilized for a moment, then roared again. Sparks flew. The control console overloaded, throwing her to the floor. Pain shot through her arm. But she didn't stop. She dragged herself back up and slammed her hand on the manual override. The lights steadied. The explosion stopped. Vale's voice returned. Core stable. Upload complete. You did it. Elra smiled weakly.
What now?
Now, he said, we show them what they tried to bury. Outside, the Eternity's broadcast reached across the stars. Millions of screens lit up on hundreds of worlds. Every lie, every crime, every truth the Council hid. All of it was out. The galaxy was watching, and nothing would ever be the same again. The galaxy burned with noise. Across thousands of worlds, people watched the truth unfold. The lies of the Council, the hidden history of humanity, the betrayal of Earth. Crowds filled the streets. Some cheered, some cried, others simply stood in silence, realizing that everything they had believed for centuries was a lie. But aboard the Eternity, silence ruled. Commander Vale stood at the center of the command deck, watching the broadcast ripple through star systems. His expression was calm, but his hands trembled. He knew what this moment meant. The galaxy would never go back to how it was. Captain Aylra entered, limping slightly from the burns she'd suffered near the reactor. Vale turned to her. "You saved us. You saved the truth." She gave a weak smile. Then it was worth it. Around them, officers exchanged nervous glances. Sensors showed the Council fleet pulling back, retreating, regrouping. It was strange. They expected revenge, not retreat. Vale frowned. "They're too quiet," Elra nodded. "Maybe they're planning something worse." He looked at her, serious. "They will do everything to control this story. They'll twist it, discredit it, maybe even turn it against us." Before he could say more, an explosion shook the deck. The lights flickered. A red alert blared through the corridors. "Internal blast in engineering," shouted an officer. "No external hits. It came from inside." Vale's voice hardened. "Seal all access points. Someone's still on board." Elra felt her stomach twist. The Council couldn't send another drone, could they? "Not this deep," Vale said. "This came from someone we let in." They both froze. The word hung in the air like a shadow. A traitor. Vale immediately opened the ship logs. Access records, command authorization, everything. And then there it was, a name. Lieutenant Jonas Cordat, one of their own. A human officer, Elra frowned. "He's one of yours. He helped during the first battle." Vale's eyes darkened. "Which is why I didn't question him." They tracked his signal to the lower hangar. Security feeds showed him near the secondary reactor, carrying an explosive charge. Vale grabbed his weapon. "He's going to destroy the ship." He ran through the corridors with Elra at his side. The air filled with smoke and sirens. Sparks rained from the ceiling. They reached the hangar just as Jonas was setting the charge on the wall. His face was pale, his hands steady. "Jonas!" Vale shouted. "Stand down!" The young officer turned slowly. His eyes were full of guilt and sorrow. "I'm sorry, sir. I have to do this." Vale stepped closer, his voice firm. "You don't have to do anything." "Tell me why." Jonas took a deep breath. "You don't understand, Commander. The Council will never stop. If we release more of the truth, they'll burn everything, every colony, every innocent world. I've seen what they can do." Aylra shook her head. "So you're helping them hide it?" "I'm trying to stop another war." Jonas shouted. "If humanity keeps pushing, the galaxy will destroy itself. Maybe it's better if we stay forgotten." Vale's voice was quiet now, almost sad. "You think peace built on lies will last? You think silence is mercy?" "No, Lieutenant. It's surrender." Jonas's hand trembled over the detonator. "You taught me to protect people, sir." "That's what I'm doing." Vale slowly raised his weapon. "And I taught you that truth is protection." A long silence filled the hangar. Then Elra whispered, "Jonas, please." For a moment his eyes softened. His finger hesitated, just long enough for Vale to shoot. The detonator fell from his hand and rolled across the floor. Jonas collapsed, eyes still open, whispering one final word. "Forgive me." The room was silent again, except for the slow hum of the reactor behind them. Elra knelt beside the fallen officer, her face pale. He believed he was saving lives. Vale holstered his weapon. So did the Council once. That's how it begins. Good men serving bad truths. He picked up the detonator and crushed it in his hand. "No more lies. Not from them. Not from us." The ship's intercom buzzed. "Commander," a voice said. "The Council fleet is advancing again. They're coming in full force." Vale straightened. "All hands to stations. We defend until the last breath," but before he moved, Aylra stopped him. "If they destroy this ship, the message dies with us." He paused, and realization hit him. The main broadcast had completed, but the ship still carried the only original data core. If it was destroyed, the Council could claim it was all fabricated. Vale clenched his fist. "Then we can't let that happen." He turned to Elra. "Get to the escape pods. Take the data and go." She shook her head. "No, we both go." But Vale didn't listen. He walked to the command console and began rerouting the ship's power. "The Eternity can't outrun them, but she can buy you time." "Marcus," he looked at her, a rare softness in his eyes. "You believed in the truth when you didn't have to. That means humanity still has hope. Take it and keep it alive." Elra's eyes filled with tears. "You'll die." "Maybe, but at least I'll die human." He pressed the console. The ship's engines roared to full power. The Eternity turned to face the oncoming Council fleet as Aelra was forced into an escape pod by the crew. She saw the view through. The glass, the massive human ship charging, straight toward hundreds of enemy vessels. Her pod launched, just as the Eternity fired all weapons. At once, a storm of light that split the darkness. The last thing she heard before the shockwave hit was Vale's voice echoing through the calm, for truth, for Earth, for humanity. The explosion lit up the stars like dawn. Aelra's pod drifted silently through the debris, clutching the data core to her chest. Humanity had lost a ship, but the galaxy had gained a truth no one could ever erase. The silence after the explosion was endless. For a long moment, the galaxy seemed to stop breathing. In the darkness of space, a single escape pod drifted between shattered metal and dying light. Inside, Captain Aelra sat motionless, her eyes wide with shock. Outside the small window, the wreckage of the Eternity floated like broken stars, pieces of the ship glowing softly as they fell into the void. Commander Vale was gone. Aelra pressed her hand against the cold glass. "You did it," she whispered. "You gave them the truth." The pod's lights flickered, pulling her back to reality. Systems failing, oxygen low. She reached for the emergency beacon and activated it. A soft blue pulse began to flash into the darkness, a call for help, a signal of survival. Then exhaustion took her. Her eyes closed and she fell into silence. When she woke again, the light was golden. Aelra opened her eyes to see a large chamber, clean, bright, peaceful. The sound of machines hummed softly in the background. A gentle voice spoke. "You're safe. Don't move too quickly." Aelra turned to see a man standing beside her bed, tall, calm, dressed in a white uniform. On his chest, she saw the insignia of the United Earth Coalition. Her breath caught. "You're human?" He smiled. "We found your pod 3 days ago. You've been unconscious since." Aelra tried to sit up. "The data core, where is it?" He held up a small metal case. "Safe, thanks to you." Relief flooded through her. "The broadcast, did it reach them?" The man nodded slowly. "Oh, it reached everyone." He touched a nearby console, and the wall screen came to life, showing scenes from across the galaxy. Crowds on alien worlds tearing down council flags, soldiers refusing to fight, leaders resigning in disgrace. The truth had spread. Vale's message had shaken the galaxy to its core. The council had tried to deny it, of course. They called it human propaganda. They said the evidence was fake, but the proof was too strong. Thousands of witnesses, millions of files, every secret uncovered. And then, one by one, their allies began to leave them. Worlds that had once feared humanity now demanded justice. In less than a month, the Galactic Council collapsed. Now, for the first time in 3,000 years, humanity stood openly among the stars again, not as conquerors, but as survivors. Weeks later, Aelra stood on the balcony of a new space station, the Citadel of Concord, built in orbit above the restored Earth. Below her, the blue planet glowed brighter than she'd ever imagined. Oceans, clouds, continents, alive again. The air inside the station was calm. People from dozens of species walked side by side, humans, Varn, Calorians, and others. No weapons, no fear. Aelra looked up at the large memorial at the heart of the hall. It was a black monolith engraved with a single sentence. "They erased us from history, but history remembers." She felt tears rise in her eyes. A familiar voice broke her thoughts. "Beautiful, isn't it?" She turned to see the same man from before, now wearing a captain's coat. "Commander Vale's legacy lives here," he said. "The Eternity was lost, but her message built this." Aelra smiled faintly. "He never wanted revenge, only truth. Truth is revenge enough," the man replied, "and justice. They stood in silence for a moment, watching ships move through the sky, the new United Earth fleet, flying side by side with vessels from alien worlds. Peace was fragile, but it was real. Later that night, Aelra recorded a message for the galaxy. Her voice was calm, steady, filled with the same strength Vale once carried. "I am Captain Aelra of the Varn Dominion, or what remains of it. I stood against humanity once. I believed the lies. But now I know the truth. Humanity did not return for war. They returned for justice and for all of us who were deceived. We cannot erase what happened, but we can build what comes next. Let this be our new beginning." The message spread across systems, and for the first time, instead of fear, it brought hope. Months later, in a quiet hangar at the edge of Earth's orbit, a new ship stood ready, sleek, silver, powerful. Its name was painted across the hull in bold letters. Eternity, to Aelra, ran her hand across the nameplate. "He'd have liked this," she whispered. The human captain beside her nodded. "Vale's memory will guide her, and you'll command her, won't you?" Aelra smiled. "No. Humanity must lead its own path now. My duty is to help the others find theirs." She looked out through the hangar's massive window, where the stars shimmered like a sea of light. "We spent so long hiding from the truth," she said softly. "But truth doesn't destroy. It heals." The captain looked at her. "So what now?" Aelra turned toward the stars, her voice calm and strong. "Now we go forward. Together." As the new fleet lifted off into the dark, their engines glowed like dawn across the horizon. And far beyond, in the endless void, a faint signal still echoed, the last transmission from the first eternity. "We are humanity. You erased us from history, but history belongs to those who return." The signal faded into the stars, carrying with it a name that could never be forgotten again. Humanity, and this time they would never be erased.